Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam, and after much thinking, processing, and writing, here is my ranking for every Denis Villeneuve that I have seen in honor of Dune 2021. The month of November is going to be a bit of a catch-up month for me. There were several series that I had started or promised to start, but because of Scary Mania, they had to be put on the back burner. So in November, I'm going to be closing out my Studio Ghibli reviews, my Villeneuve month rankings with this ranking, and I'm going to be reviewing the Daniel Craig Bond movies in honor of No Time to Die, which came out last month. And so with that out of the way, let's dive into some Villeneuve stuff. And now that Dune 2021 has come out, I can safely make my ranking and say that of the Villeneuve movies that I have seen, this is my ranking. Now, please keep in mind, this is not the correct ranking. This is my ranking. This is incredibly subjective. If you like, or if you have a certain movie in another position, or have it in different orders, that is totally great. But leave your thoughts on the Villeneuve movies that you have seen in the comments below. I'd love to read what you have to say. And also, please keep in mind that I love all of these movies. I think they're all excellent. However, ranking them was incredibly challenging because let's just say my least favorite of Villeneuve's movies is still better than a good chunk of the movies that I have seen this year. That really says something. So with that out of the way, let's dive into my Villeneuve ranking. Number 8, Polytechnic. Again, this is not a bad movie. Far from it. It's actually a very well-made movie, but wow, I was not prepared for what this movie was about. I can understand why people wouldn't exactly be jazzed to see this movie. After all, it shows and depicts a mass shooting in very raw and violent terms. So with that in mind, I can understand why people are not exactly jonesing to watch this movie again. However, I feel out of all of Villeneuve's movies, it's probably one of the more important ones. This is an incredibly short movie. I don't think it's even 90 minutes. It's in the 85-minute ballpark. But it accomplishes a lot in that time. You get to understand the students whose lives were taken in that unfortunate day. You get to hear how just mentally depraved the shooter was. And it's all done in less than 90 minutes. That is incredibly efficient. And I saw some reviews and sayings online that this movie should not be made because it does talk about a mass shooting. However, this movie was produced by one of the survivors. Actually, the main character of the movie, the real person, had a hand in producing this movie and actually reached out to Denis Villeneuve to say, hey, can you please direct this? So, one of the people who was unfortunately a victim of this tragic day had a hand in making this movie because she wanted this story to be told. I would much rather take her word over anyone else's. Again, this is a very disturbing movie. However, it accomplished a lot in a very short amount of time. And it's definitely Villeneuve's least rewatchable movie, but I chalk that up to the source material. Though I highly recommend everyone check it out at least once. Number 7, Sicario. This isn't meant to say that Sicario is a bad movie either. I actually rewatched it for my review for Villeneuve month. I watched it for the very first time in a very long time, and I honestly thought that it was better than I remembered it being. However, it speaks to Villeneuve as a director to show that he gets better and better the more you look into his filmography, as Sicario, an excellent movie, is in the bottom tier, in my opinion, but it's in the bottom tier. That says a lot. But low ranking aside, Sicario is still excellent. Great cinematography, underrated score. Emily Blunt, Benicio del Toro, and Josh Brolin are all great. Check out the scene where they go into Juarez to pick up their target and rush back immediately. It's great stuff. Ultimately, though, the message of the movie was a lot more blunt than a lot of Villeneuve's other movies. That's why the ranking is a tad lower than the rest. Though a lack of subtlety aside, there are just too many great scenes to mention. Probably my favorite is when Benicio del Toro finally gets to his destination, to his target, and says, It's time to meet God. And if you know the rest, you know the rest. Number 6, Enemy. I have never been more thankful for film essays online. When I was watching this movie, I was thinking to myself, okay, this is good, but what is this really about? And doing research and looking into theories and essays and the like, I think the movie can be best described as your good side and your evil side just going like this for about 2 hours. Why do I put this over Sicario? Well, it all comes down to Jake Gyllenhaal, because he is fantastic in the movie. He has to play his good side and his bad side, and he does both in about as good a fashion as you could ask for. Enemy is a confusing movie at first. However, the more you think about it, the more you research it, and the more you kind of swish it around and mull it over in your head, the movie gets better and better. Number 5, Incendies. 1 + 1 = 1, man. 1 + 1 = 1. Nope, I'm still not over it. Basically, if you know, you know. This is one of those twists in movies that will leave you devastated. But this movie is really just... It's so well made that because it leads up to just a massive explosion, it just... Wow, This movie's so hard to describe. The performances are all great, especially the main girl. I'm not sure of her name. I'll leave it in the lower third. But genuinely, her reaction to when her brother asks her what happens when 1 + 1 = 1, the whole and she gets her eyes this big and she realizes what has happened. It's scarier than any horror movie I've seen in 2021, and I mean that without a shred of irony or sarcasm. I can't describe this movie any more than that. If you haven't seen it, check it out for yourself. Number 4, Blade Runner 2049. Denis Villeneuve is really good at taking really hard-to-crack sci-fi and making it more accessible. And this is not to say that this is like him trying to dumb it down for the normies. That's not what I'm trying to get at. The original Blade Runner, while it is one of my favorite movies of all time, it is incredibly difficult to get into. It's all about, the machinations of these robots, and are they becoming more human, or are they just thinking they're human? Basically, the whole movie feels like a Turing test, with noir stuff and cop stuff thrown in for good measure. 2049 had a pretty impossible task, and in that regard, it pretty much accomplished what I wanted it to, continuing with the themes that were left behind from the original and introducing new things. Ryan Gosling was great as Kay. We got the best Harrison Ford performance in many years as Rick Deckard. The effects and cinematography were almost too good to be true, as was Hans Zimmer's excellent score. And I can understand why people who weren't necessarily big fans of the original Blade Runner love 2049 so much. And in my opinion, the original is just barely better than 2049. However, both are of equal quality. And Denis Villeneuve is kind of a miracle worker for turning this kind of difficult to talk about material into something more accessible. And that's only a good thing. And speaking of that, number 3, Dune. I am so incredibly happy that we are getting Dune Chapter 2, because I have a feeling that if the cards are played right, the Dune trilogy is going to happen, and it is going to be excellent. And I'm so glad that I'm here for it. But as for Dune Chapter 1, it is excellent. Beautiful cinematography, great score. I love Timothée Chalamet as Paul, Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica, and just everyone in between. Josh Brolin as Gurney Halleck, Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Harkonnen, and there's too many great performances to really name. One of the common complaints I hear about Dune is that it's almost too much. It crams politics and legends and myths into one package, and I can definitely understand where people are coming from and respect it. However, I think Denis did a great job of at least introducing you to the world if you are not exactly familiar with it. On my Dune review, I got a comment asking me, for someone who has never heard of Dune, would I still like it? And my answer is a resounding yes. Basically, if you go into the movie thinking to yourself, House Atreides are the good guys, and the House Harkonnen are the bad guys, and Harkonnen were on this planet, they got moved off, and Atreides were there, and Harkonnens are mad at them, I think you'll be fine, and you can figure out the rest from there. Denis did a great job of not necessarily babying the audience, but introducing only the relevant stuff, knowing full well that in 2, all of the dots that were left unconnected would be connected. If Dune had to be remade, I am so glad that this is the version that we got. Number 2, Prisoners. Oh man, going from number 2 to number 1 was so difficult. It really was. However, I chose Prisoners as number 2 because my number 1 just had a much happier ending. Because Prisoners, wow. Walking out of Prisoners the first time, I felt like I needed a shower. Which is a testament to Denis. He grounds you in the world and keeps you there. There's kind of a trend going where you can't have anything too disturbing without a joke to kind of cut things and make things more lighthearted. No, Denis keeps you in this world and gives you just some hope at the end, but the rest is just heat. Nothing but heat. Hugh Jackman gives the best performance of his career, also Jake Gyllenhaal, and Paul Dano is just... he's so pathetic, but also kinda sympathetic all at the same time. It speaks to his talent. And the genius of this movie is that you go into it thinking, oh, this is going to be a simple kidnapping story or a revenge story. But no, Denis actually keeps things in a shade of gray. Hugh Jackman, in any other movie, would be the hero. However, he does such questionable things to where you're just sitting there like, dude, you are looking for your daughter still, right? Like, just stay on task. But as a father, he is so consumed with rage that he just sees no other option but to just go at this kid full bore. This is one of the more brutal movies that I have ever seen. And it's a beautiful movie, mostly thanks to Roger Deakins' excellent cinematography. However, it is still one of the most brutal movies I have ever seen. If you have never seen it before, be prepared, because it is so tough to watch, but in a good way. And my favorite Denis Villeneuve movie of all time is Arrival. Again, I had a very difficult time choosing between Prisoners and Arrival as my number 1. I love Prisoners. It is excellent. However, the movie gives a very twisted happy ending, and Arrival gives a twisted happy ending as well. However, it also leaves you with the question of, okay, this may be happening, but what if you could change that? Amy Adams gives the best performance of her career, as does Jeremy Renner. And like I said, the movie asks you questions about the future and what you would do if you were given the choice, knowing what would happen. As far as alien invasion movies go, this may be one of the more mature alien invasion movies ever made. And it is excellent. But what is your favorite Villeneuve movie? Leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. But if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. That way when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.